Poi ci si rilavava le mani, si sentiva una flautista suonare perché la musica in qualche modo veniva ritenuta sempre ispiratrice di buoni pensieri e poi...
So we're going to start, and everyone had their point of view. So we hope that these 2 days, yesterday was like that, but that today could be a symposium that we go through by hearing each other's points of views and with tranquility. And this is going to be a very important week for us, very special, because you will see that the weather is really beautiful and it's almost November and the weather is incredible. So yes, I'm curious to know how this term that I just said is translated. So yeah, I would call it a Roman October. And 22 of October, we had a day recalling what John Paul II, he talked about the commitment of young people in their growth as people and learning, but also their contribution and everything that they could bring to the society. So the topic of service learning is really important for us, and recalling this figure, it's really important. I am going to summarize the Dialecti Amici talk. Your youth is not just yours, it's not your property or property of the generation. That belongs to the complex of the space that every man goes through his life. And it's something special for everybody, good for humanity. So I really want you to put your youth, and with this topic, we can put this to the service of a project. We celebrated 6 months from the death of Giorgianina Di Marco, which was our general director, and since 1996 she worked so much because we had events in order to have events like this, universal events. Last thing I would like to recall, in LUMSA we celebrated 83 years. We were born in the 1939, so this is something really important. It is our birthday in some way. We really think that you guys can feel appreciated when you go to somebody's house to celebrate a birthday, so at ease. So I wish you a good work on these very important topics, such as the ones we are talking about today. Professor Maria Cinque, who invited me, thank you for inviting me here, and her team that works on this important topic here in LUMSA. And I will leave the floor to one of the person of the team that worked on the organization of this program and this event, and she is going to talk about everything that concerns these parallel sessions. And Dr. Claudia Russo. Have a good day. Thank you, Eduardo, for your presentation, and thank you, everybody. Before starting with this panel, I invite you to get comfortable. I will give you some information. I know it's a little boring, but I have to do this. The first information is the fact as you know, that all of the panels are streamed live on our social accounts, Uniservitate, Claes and Days, on YouTube in the 3 languages, Italian, English, and Spanish. The second information is the fact that the day is going to be full of appointments with speakers, people coming from all over the world. So I ask you to be punctual. And lastly, I inform you that you should be careful with your stuff. We can't keep your bags and anything like that, so be careful, please. I won't talk more about it. I will leave the floor now to Professor Bojana Kulum of Croatia University, and also the Andrew Furco, which is going to be the moderator, University of Minnesota, of the Academic Council of Uniservitate. Have a good work.
Thank you very much. Very nice introduction. So welcome all to our panel titled From Individual Experiences to Institutional Service Learning. And to talk about such a change, to talk about such a journey, we have with us those who have taken position with their own institutions with much responsibility, but also duty and the decision-making power to bring the positive institutional change. We're going to have 4 presentations, but 5 presenters, and we'll travel over different countries, different continents, different languages. So some of the presentations will be in Spanish, some in English, so have your translator devices ready. I invite all the panelists to be conscious of the given time frame, so please take 15 minutes for your presentation. And then in the end, as already announced, we're going to have Andrew Furco for the final reflection, for the final recap. So are you ready? 3, 2, 1. Let's start. The first, and I will be announcing presenters as their presentation come to the place. The first one is coming from Bilbao, Basquia. So we have Elena Uzmendi Escribano and Juan Jose Severia with us. Elena is a Vice Rector for Academic Planning, Teaching Innovation and Quality of the University of Deusto in Bilbao, Deusto, I'm so sorry. And Juan Jose is Vice Rector for the University Community and the 2030 Agenda of the University of Deusto in Bilbao. So please, the floor is yours.
Buenos días. ¿Se escucha? Sí, buenos días. Y lo primero, agradecer la invitación.
And good morning. I am really honored to be here to present you the path to the institutionalization. And this is a process, and I think it's really important. When we work on this topic, for what concerns the service learning, we have 3 keys, basically, that explain to us the why of this path. And of course, the first is because we want to give the university a service and also the community with the goal of training students. Of course, it's important, the spiritual part of our path, which talks about feelings, to actually transform the person and transform ourselves. Of course, I think that we need experiences of contact with reality. So experiences that then turn to knowledge. So for the formation We have Jesuits, but I will not talk about history because that will take too long. But the first person that we need to talk about is Padre Pedro Rupe, which basically taught us that we had to create people from other people. So this is possible to contextualize our mission in this framework. Also, Peter Hans Kovenbach, which talks about these 3 passages that aim at the training of people that are really good at what they do. Adolfo Nicolas also is another person that talks about this topic. Something that he used to repeat is the fact that we don't talk about training the best. We need to train the best for the world. This is something really important to understand the paradigm of Jesus and something that has to do with our experience. This is an image that he used to use, the giraffe image. He said that we need to have the giraffe heart. So what does this mean? We also needed to be like giraffes, as he said, because they had a big heart, which is 5 kilos of weight, because he said that this heart was so big and it's so important because that needs a lot of blood. So this is the parallelism that we have. We need to have this big heart when we confront ourselves with other realities. So also you have to consider the height of the giraffe to understand the complexity of things. We need to look at them from a higher point of view. So we need to go further. And I think that this is really important for our learning and why we are learning. So in this program, I would not talk about this too much, but these 4 dimensions are influencing us with justice, humanitas, trust, and utility. But I will leave the floor now to the Vice President to give us an image that's actually recent. Good morning. Thank you, everybody. The context that Juanjo just explained makes us understand that the university, for the first time, introduced in 2022 and 2023 the social participation of values, also for PhDs in psychology that we had. So that was a subject that had an incorporation. We also introduced a human training part that concerns all of the students. We had new experiences also outside the school in these 20 years, and that's where our focus is, to get to the institutionalization. So they are going to become reality. And through the development of competences, it's important to say that in these days we talked about how important it is to have a goal toward we have to move. And this goal always existed, and these experiences are the result of the path, and they were so important experiences that belongs to different realities, different unities. So we are now in a moment where we have to build again this puzzle so that all of our universities go to the same direction. So these are the steps that we have to do when we are thinking about the future to reach what the institutional support is from universities. It's important to understand that we are on the same path. So it's not a straight path, but we had different turns. We have to understand that this path is not easy and it's long, but so we have to follow the steps to reach the support of our institutions. Involving teachers, professors, and students, they have to be involved in the process. We have to be the right resources and to involve them in the path and creating networks. So this is the goal. We are here today has a goal. We are here, we're building networks that are fundamental to really take the experience. And as institutions, we have this goal in the future that we need to support to be carried out, also for other projects. And I'm going to describe really briefly what are the projects in the social field for the competencies to understand better what's the sense of the service learning. For what concerns the social field, this is nothing new because these are the services that we as university carry out, something that we offer to society to promote justice. And maybe this is something new, but the fact of working for eco-sustainability, it's important. And this needs to be done through an agent. So the third sector that is around our context. And not just from people, but also institutions to give them power. And this is something that we obtained, of course, working and dialoguing with institutions. They are soliciting this partnership. And these projects are service learning projects that include experiences from which we can have knowledge, solidarity, for example, charity, good practices, projects that are going to be implemented through our reflection and with experience, with research, with analysis, with the support of students, through the research of students and university. Has also the managing of our university that has a really important impact. This is something that we are developing, and it's part of different actions that are going to be implemented. For what concerns the competences, in the last few years, we thought that we want our students to know, once their path is finished, what, according to us, is the value that they had and that society had to be informed. So we have competences, we have the CEO competence, for example, which is at the end of the path, and we are different things, different values. So working together in synergy with communities, with services, with the Center of Knowledge and Training that always worked in this field with students in all of the courses. Our main goal is the fact that 10,000 students get to the point that they have enough knowledge through the years to be able to work and to use the competences they have. And lastly, what is service learning and why, as directors of our universities, we consider this so important and institutional.
No el único, evidentemente, pero sí el fundamental.
It's not the only one, but of course it's fundamental for the integral education and to allow students to develop different experiences and competencies, the CO competencies that we were talking about before, through proposals, through experiences, some of which are going to be sealed in this social campus, in the experience of different learning topics at the academic level, also research level, elements that we already had as universities, but we are working on unitely, so that they can, so then everybody can bring their experiences. As we already talked about in the previous sessions, we have all of the pieces of the puzzle in the same context, and we understood that in this moment we have to implement this. So this is what we have learned from this process. We understood that this is a long path, a long road. We don't have to stop. We have to be conscious about this. And it's a long road. We have to talk, we have to gather, we have to incorporate, and there's always going to be a motive. And as an institution, we work this way. We have this concept clear in our mind, we have our goal clear, but it's important to have a shared project that involves everybody, needs to be known, well known, and implemented and evaluated. So it's not just about implementing. We need to understand who the references are in the institutions. We have a lot of experience from different realities. Some is my experiences, some come from the others' experience. We are involved, but we have to be represented by somebody. We need to find a place that is a referrer for every university, like a contact person, and this requires human abilities and qualities, and also competencies. So if you're a professor, it doesn't mean that you are able to manage all of this. We think about the fact that these are our resources, additional resources. We have to be creative. We have to imagine this concept. It's clear that we need to understand and motivate the person that is going to bring a new spirit, like this experience that allow us to share the good practices and our basic experiences. So it's required that there is a project of learning, but also of acknowledgement. So having a dream that is going to be made real. So not about the words, of course, not just about words, but this dream needs to be implemented. And to close my intervention, I would just say that we could develop so much more. I would like to thank you for the possibility that you gave me to be here to share with you my experience, and I would like to thank all of the people that are here present, all of the people that are here to represent the work that we are doing.
Y motivaros para
So thank you for everything that you've done
darnos a esta institucionalización.
so that you can help us in this process. Thank you.
Thank you very much, both of them. Perfect timing. I really appreciate it. And you know, at the end, I think that we might all agree that actually University of Deusto already has a heart of a giraffe. The next one is Chantal Joanne Valderrama. So we are now traveling from Spain across the ocean to Chile. She serves as a director of the Pontifical University Catholic in Chile, but she's also leading much of the engagement with the international network and transmitting service learning methodology to different educational instances. And following that, she actually expressed a wish to transmit herself from this stage closer to you. So Chantal, the floor is literally yours.
Thank you very much. Muchas gracias. Soy Chantal Joanet, como dijeron, y voy a hablar de acá abajo porque no solo mi alma es inquieta, sino también mis pies. Y también creo que es bueno estar con ustedes aquí para poder hacer mi presentación y también ser coherente con lo que desde mi centro le enseñamos a los profesores. Represento hoy día al vicerrector académico de nuestra universidad, Fernando Purcell, que por motivos de salud de su familia no pudo estar acá. Así que hoy día siento una mochila muy pesada porque espero llegar a su altura. Bueno, me pidieron que hoy día hablara de las experiencias aisladas a las políticas de aprendizaje-servicio, que nosotros en nuestro país hablamos de A+S. Y yo también quería hablar de una experiencia individual a una colectiva y de una colectiva sólida y coherente. Por tanto, quise hablar de aprendizaje-servicio para un mundo más humano. Solo de contexto, Chile, 4.270 kilómetros de largo, invitados también, como nos invitó nuestra compañera de Zaragoza, y un ancho máximo de 445 kilómetros, para que se entusiasmen y quieran ir. Bueno, 19 millones de habitantes, nuestra Pontificia Universidad Católica de Chile tiene 134 años, y nuestro programa, al que yo quiero comentarles hoy día, tiene 18 años. Nace el año 2004, cuando fuimos a Berkeley a conocer la experiencia de Andy Furco y que nos contara, y después nos dimos cuenta que al lado nuestros vecinos cruzando la cordillera estaban, por tanto empezamos a trabajar con Clays. Sí, perdón. Lo primero que quiero decir, además de haberme presentado, es agradecer. Creo que nos hace muy bien agradecer. Yo lo primero quiero agradecer por estar aquí con mis compañeros de Chile y Argentina, que hemos estado muy juntos, por compartir con otros y otras tan distintos, por darnos energía para seguir soñando, ya que no estamos solos, y por construir entre todos y todas un mundo más justo. Eso quiero partir mi presentación. Y lo hemos compartido harto, y esto lo voy a pasar un poco más rápido, pero no es lo menos importante, que hoy día tenemos varios desafíos que no podemos olvidar, como en nuestro caso una institución católica, ¿no es cierto? Y partiendo por nuestra carta, la Ex Cor de Ecclesia, que nos invita, nos desafía en muchos de sus párrafos a ser una universidad más humana, donde nuestros estudiantes y nuestros profesores y profesoras sean protagonistas de un cambio más social, donde, como dice ahí, una educación que prepare personas conscientes de la dignidad trascendental de la persona humana y que la formación profesional comprenda los valores éticos y la dimensión del servicio a las personas y a la sociedad. Lo hemos transmitido muchísimo y ha sido maravilloso, cómo nos desafía también el Pacto Educativo Global para escuchar la voz de los jóvenes que hemos estado en estos días, para buscar otras formas de comprender la economía, la política, el crecimiento y el progreso, para que estén al servicio de ¿quién? Del hombre, de las mujeres y de toda la familia humana. El Papa, en la Federación de Universidades Católicas, dijo: es necesario superar el legado de la Ilustración, educar en general pero sobre todo en las universidades no es solo llenar la cabeza de conceptos, que sí que nos gusta en las universidades. Sí, necesitan 3 lenguajes: el lenguaje de la mente, el lenguaje del corazón y el lenguaje de las manos. Nuestro santo chileno, también jesuita, nuestra institución no es jesuita, pero sí tenemos un santo jesuita, San Alberto Hurtado. Tiene varios de sus libros donde quiso transformar la educación en Chile. No le ha funcionado tanto, pero vamos por lograrlo. Y cada profesión ha de ser concebida no solo como un medio para ganarse la vida, de mejorar su situación económica, que es lo que muchas veces nuestros estudiantes así ingresan a nuestras instituciones, ¿sí? De elaborar un porvenir a sus hijos, sino también como el ejercicio de una misión social y una colaboración al bien común de la sociedad. Para eso es la profesión. Y nuestra universidad también tiene una misión que es el paraguas de todo lo que yo quiero contar hoy día.
Our university is like an umbrella of our reality. We need to understand that the Catholic University aims to the education of people. We have this concept has to be clear. We have to serve society and church. So how we can face this challenge and these needs will respond to this true curriculum to transform spaces and to reach communities and people. So let's go. Let's carry out, and I will talk you about a collective experience and so on. First of all, we need to decide what is service learning and what is not, because there are a lot of definitions. We need a curricular approach, so to give a possibility to all people with teachers that have been our pillars of this process, to incorporate subjects and a model that could institutionalize this path of life. We have a definition of service learning, which has 3 elements as an academical approach, one that aims to values and another that aims to service. The professional academic aims to the relation between students and teachers, because the learning is fundamental and everything is related to what Pope Francis said. So to use it, a context which is better for the student. We created a sort of agenda for these services, so to create a new elements and to help poor people. We don't give ad personam services. This was our definition as institution, because our service has to involve also the poorest people, especially the weakest people. We also include the formation and the educational and values, because this process has to reach a social compromise, a process with a teamwork, a social approach where students can be aware about the problems in their realities, so that they could put in their mind values of solidarity. This is very linked to what our colleague said this morning. Service learning is not the social tourism. It's not enough to understand the reality of poorness, but we have to transform the suffering of people to understand what we can do to do, we can do, and what we need to do to solve the situation. The help of our rector has talked about this method, because and other rectors talked about this method because they believed in this approach, independently of the type of the approach. Another important element is to create a model to put service learning in subjects. We have also published these studies because otherwise it will be lost. So we have highlighted the most important passages. Okay, they asked me to talk slowly. So there are some implementation process, and as you can see, there are some elements as the starting laboratory of teachers, because we need to to train them, and we need also contacts with students, which is another element important, and it is to accompany professors, so to follow them in these effective processes. Some of others models talks about isolated models, because they talk about models and subjects. We created this kind of model, and we evaluated this evolution. This slide of before was about the evolution, but what I would like to talk about is this institutionalization model, and these are the four steps, which are the keys, so to guarantee that each academic path could guarantee the most adapted subjects for the service learning. Everything has been created through a commission formed by teachers, students, and representatives of universities, so to put together the process and the subjects. We talk about also the Department of Physiotherapy, which are departments with different specific pact between students and professors. It is a process characterized by a long vision. This here we have 160 subjects with 7,000 students. Another important element is to collaborate and share what we have created. All the materials that you can see there, it comes from our work, and I'm here to represent my colleague, and all these material could be seen on our website. We translated this material in Portuguese, English, and now we are translating it also in French, so that every one of you can read them. Finally, the concept of communication is necessary, as is a fundamental element that has to be in our vision. We made that this communication could be the way through friends and collaborators all over the world could work all together. We have also other projects regarding this project. And finally, I would like to talk about systematization and research, where we published and evaluated the perception of students of
and professor as well, and also the community partners, how they evaluate our work in service learning. You can see all of this in our website. This is a very big challenge. Quality learning is possible through this service learning that needs an evaluation of the work we have made. We have also to consider our territory, so to better our relationship with our partners. Starting from this slide, you can see how we started with one experience and now we work on different experiences that shared everything they learned. And it will be better if these experiences would be interconnected between them through different courses that could be a further step for service learning, so to be more connected, so to create a very great network. I would like to conclude with this image, with this picture, to understand the concept from individual to collective, because reality as the one of Colombia had the possibility to go toward the sky, and we have been described as a lot of people, a mass of lights, of candle lights that represents people that make lights. There are few lights and great lights. There are people that with a great fire. There are fire that are not so high, and others that burn the life, and it's not possible to close to them because the risk is that you will burn. So thank you so much. Here you can find the QR code of our website that you can consult and you can see. I would like also to invite you in Chile to our seminary that will be this year, the 4th seminary. The most important thing is that this seminary will be in our territory. From university, we talk about the territory we have talked about in this during this speech. Thank you.
These presenters are quite multifaceted model going on at your place, and now mentioning the fire at the end. I think we can all agree that the fire in you, Chantal, can't also be put down. Now, we are on a very long journey from Chile to India. We have Shaji Joseph with us, with kind of a double identity, right? So Shaji is an adjunct professor and the director of the Department of Spirituality at the Silesian Pontifical University here in Rome. But he is also associate professor in the Department of Comparative Religion in the Assam Don Bosco University in India. Shaji, you're more than welcome to start.
Thank you very much for this introduction. Right at the beginning, I would like to thank the organizers, Uniservitate, for having invited Assam Don Bosco University to present our experience of service learning, particularly in the field of institutionalizing service learning at our university. And I'm really happy to represent the university also in the name of our Vice Chancellor, Father Stephen Maveli, who is not able to be present here today, though he would have liked very much to be here. Okay, we want to speak about our isolated experiences being transformed into an institutionalized policy of service learning at the university. It's our case at Assam Don Bosco University. Assam Don Bosco University is in India. It is in the northeast of India. Generally, when we think of India, we think of the big chunk that is the mainland. But there is a head right on the northeastern part of India, connected with by a kind of chicken egg with the rest of India. And we are actually in the northeastern part of India, and it's a very beautiful place, a mosaic of cultures, creeds, colors and costumes, tribes and tongues, smiles and songs. You can add several adjectives. It's a wonderful place to visit. It is a land also of enchanting beauty, rich in natural resources. Those buildings that you see are hostel facilities at the university. Very rich in natural resources, but also with several social problems of poverty, illiteracy, unemployment, lack of basic amenities in this region of the northeast of India. And we as Salesians of Don Bosco, having been there for the last 100 years, thought about starting a university already when Indian government gave permissions for starting private universities. It was, in fact, in 1997, at the 75th anniversary of our presence in Northeast India, we thought of organizing all our educational efforts into organizing something that is valuable for the whole region of the Northeast. So it is in this context of Northeast India that Assam Don Bosco University was established 15 years ago with a very clear vision and a mission of social transformation. Our university is not as old as universities in Rome or in Spain or even in Chile or in other parts of the world, just 15 years of our life. But from the very beginning, the university has committed itself to a social involvement, which is very much part of our university life. In fact, the vision of the university, the mandate of the university is to mold intellectually competent, morally upright, socially committed, and spiritually inspired persons at the service of India and the world by imparting holistic and personalized education. We have tried to translate for India what Don Bosco would say: we want to create good Christians and honest citizens. You can't talk of good Christians in a context of India, but we talk about good human beings at various levels and good citizens of the country. And this leads to a commitment to engage in social commitment programs in wide-ranging areas directed towards ensuring social justice and dignity for all, thereby improving the quality of human life with a social focus on the highly marginalized, neglected, and the disempowered communities. And that's our mission. That's our commitment. And in this commitment, we believe that participation of the community in all our social commitment programs is the key to gradually bringing about social change and development. Assam Don Bosco University has facilitated the organic growth of a series of social commitment projects that have meaningful societal impact. All the departments, we have about 26 departments functioning at the moment, all come out very strongly and in big numbers in providing strategic inputs as well as human resources in the cause of reaching out to the communities. Just to give a few examples of the various interventions that are made in the social field through service learning. Social programs in the thematic areas of education for community children, women's health, disability, youth development, participatory environment conservation, road safety awareness, relief services, critical intervention programs inbuilt within the curriculum, especially in moments of crisis like floods or droughts, community development. These are areas where we involve ourselves in. We have had some examples yesterday in the presentation, this example of using technology for answering a specific need of a community was used, and that was a multi-dimensional, multi-departmental work, not just by one department of technology, but in connection with various other departments in order to bring the innovation that one student did in the university to the benefit of his community. And that was providing clean drinking water using nanotechnology. Or another example is of literacy program for neighborhood children, because university is not an isolated entity, but it is inserted within a context. And therefore, in the neighborhood, there are several children who maybe do not go to school or do not have the best facilities in school. And therefore, the Department of Social Work thought about a holistic education with evening tuitions, life skill sessions, personality development programs, in order to augment the education that they receive in government schools. Or another example, non-formal skill training, especially by the School of Technology, again, skill training for unemployed youth of the region, carpentry, house wiring, solar-powered LED lamps, basic computer operation, welding. These are programs organized for these various groups of unemployed youth. Making use also of collaboration with other universities. For instance, with the University College Dublin, there is an exchange program in which both the students of Dublin and of Guwahati have the possibility to interact with each other, plan together their various interventions, and take away with them a learning from the experience that they have gone through. And that is through participatory community development and social outreach. Now, these are all various interventions, and they are being clubbed together and coordinated by the Center for Development Studies and Initiatives at the university, the apex body at the university that coordinates and provides the space nurturing and sustaining a socially committed environment in the university and society in general. But we didn't want to remain with this. We wanted to move on to an institutionalizing stage. That is to say that this is not limited to a few individual students who have the volunteering spirit to intervene and to offer service and thus make use of social service and social service learning. But it must become the curriculum of every student that enrolls himself or herself at the university. So there was a conscious and concerted effort to move towards extending social engagement across all departments of the university. And this resulted in the introduction of service learning as a mandated course across all disciplines of the university, disciplines varying from technology to social humanities or social work. Various departments, they have to go through this curriculum of service learning. And this was introduced by the Vice Chancellor, Father Stephen Maveli, in the autumn academic session of 2019. But in order to do this, a lot of work went on in preparation. A core committee researched on the concept of service learning and evaluated with the students their individual experiences. And this core committee had members from the student groups in order to plan together how this can become part of the curriculum of the university. There was a growing conviction of the effectiveness of experiential learning that integrates community engagement into the academic curriculum, thus providing the student with an opportunity to connect their classroom with the community needs. And that's a very important connection that has to be done by every student. The classroom is not an isolated place, but it must be in relationship with the community where he or she comes from. So service learning is designed to create a feel for and an awareness about social issues, and to have a taste for personal involvement to make a change wherever you find yourself later in life. And true education is when students are able to connect head, heart, and hands and use their education to lift up someone's life. This we already discussed yesterday in the various interventions that we had. We found that in service learning, there are three fundamental principles in making it into a policy. First of all, the students must take leadership. They have the key role. They are the protagonists We talked about this yesterday. It is working with the community, not so much working for the community to answer to a particular need, but it is conscientizing the community about their situation, the richness that they have, and maybe to resolve some issues that they have in their community. And then, a third important aspect of service learning, linking community engagement with curricular content. Community engagement is not a voluntary service that we do once in a while, but it must be intrinsically linked to the curricular content. Whatever be the curriculum, you may be learning about nanotechnology, but you have to use it for a particular context. And so service learning is institutionalized at our university with the following distinctive characteristics. I will not go into details of this, just to mention them. Linking of service and learning objectives. That is to say, the involvement in a community is to be seen in relation to the curriculum that you are doing and the objectives of that particular learning, of that particular concrete subject. So that linking has to be done together with the students. A multidisciplinary approach, not that each department does what it wants, but you collaborate with one another, you work in a synodal way in order to make sure that your intervention is effective. They are student-led projects, which involves participation of communities. In fact, one of the very concrete things that we do is we participate together with the communities, their joyful moments of celebration. Feast of colors like the Holi, or the festival of harvest. The students go to take part together with the community and gets involved in the community. That makes them also capable of entering into the real life of the community. And so the community feels itself appreciated, that there are students of the university who are participating in our life, entering into our homes, and so we will collaborate with them in order to find common solutions for our problems. And then, of course, our interventions are solution-based. One important aspect of service learning is emphasizing on reflection and journaling. Students who go through this project have to do a journaling, write a journal, in order to note down their own reflections and create the stories that they want to narrate to others, the experiences that they have gone through. And all this, there is, of course, emphasis on spirituality of service learning and supported by the management. So the university has taken upon itself this important task of involving service learning as a way of educating at the university. This has to be done, of course, creating awareness among the faculty members. And so capacity building program was conducted for the university faculty, especially in the month of January 2020, to implement service learning as a way of teaching and learning at the university. We also participate in the regional hub training programs, and we insist on dissemination and sharing of best practices. What is the institutionalized content? The content is this. There is a 2-credit course of 30 hours on service learning. That's a theory component, which includes 10 hours of orientation at the university level for everyone, and 20 hours of theory class for each department from the perspective of the department and the subjects of the department. And this will be assessed for 50 marks in Moodle platform by every department. After this, they have designed and planned their interventions, and each student, depending on whether their course is 2 years or 3 years or 4 years, they will do minimum hours of involvement in these various projects. 180 minimum hours of service for a 2-year program, 200 minimum hours of service for a 3-year program, and 300 minimum hours of service for a 4-year program. And that's the service component. So the curriculum involves a theory component and a service component. The service component is assessed through the timesheet, the various interventions that they have gone, how many times they went to the village, etc. reflective journaling, the journaling that we talked about, the summary report that they would prepare, the supervisor's evaluation, and the presentation that each student would make in the context of each department. And so we have a structure in which there is a core committee that has planned together with students, nodal faculty. Each department has a faculty in this service team. Faculty mentors are there to accompany the students. We have over 4,000 students, so we need several faculty mentors who accompany the students. And finally, the big group of students, staff, and community partners. We also offer service learning fellowship to students to encourage them to have their own initiatives. A service learning fellowship is open to all students of Assam Don Bosco University to be used for a service learning project initiated by them. It can be an individual project or a group project. There is a call for application, submission of proposals, shortlisting of proposals, interview of shortlisted candidates, and the final selection is done. And that would be funded by the university itself. Through this institutionalization of service learning as a policy for our university in our curriculum, we hope really to achieve the vision of molding intellectually competent, morally upright, socially committed, and spiritually inspired persons at the service of India and the world by imparting holistic and personalized education. I would like to conclude with a personal experience of mine while I was called to teach at a college in Bangalore at the south of India. I was asked one evening to give a talk to a group of young people. And I asked them, what is this group about? The leader of the group said, our group has a name and it is MAD, M-A-D. I said, that's understandable. Young people can get mad. But what exactly is your madness? So the leader said, we are a group of university students studying medicine. But in the vicinity of the place where we stay, we see that there are several children who do not go to school. And so we have decided that we would spend 1 hour a week, each student would spend 1 hour a week in order to conduct something for these children. And we are getting together for a spirituality meeting, and so I would like you to give a talk. But then I said, but what is this madness? And he said, you know, MAD stands for making a difference. Making a difference. Through service learning as an institutional policy, we really want to be mad. And I wish we all get mad about this.
What a way to end the presentation. Thank you, Shaji, so very much for immersing us all into your university and then service learning with such a distinctive, obviously some kind of mad characteristics as well. We have an expression in Croatia that will be translated along the lines, much of the joyful things do not last long. So we came to the final presentation of today's panel. With great pleasure, I'm inviting Jairo Humberto Cifuentes Madrid, coming from the Pontifical University Javeriana in Colombia. He's the General Secretary of the university, responsible for the Global Compact of Education, but also President of the Higher University Council of the University Foundation, and a President of the Board of Telescope, which is a network of observatories of good practices of university strategic management in Iberoamericana area. Jairo, please, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much. Muy buenos días a todos y a todas. No puedo menos que empezar esta intervención.
Thank you for inviting me here. I'm very grateful to be here and having this exceptional occasion to participate to this panel in this symposium. I had so many information, so this is something that makes me really, really glad that I came here. I would like to thank LUMSA University for having organized this event. After all of the presentations that were before mine, let me be a little bit worried because I don't know what else is left to say. What else can I add? Well, I'm going to present you my experience at the Javeriana University in Bogota, which is going to be 400 years to this year from its establishment. And if we look at that as experience and social responsibility, it will be better to talk about my ex-students, our ex-students. We had 100 former students that actually made changes in society. Pedro Claver, he was called the slave of slaves, and Sam Peter transformed in an example of treating people. Also, one of my friends was killed because he tried to eradicate the drug dealing. And also some of the former students that talked about their experience at universities and our social compromise program. I would like to stress how important this is for us, and in the 21st century, the service learning and social responsibilities are two important topics. I would like to divide my intervention in three parts. The first one is the pedagogy one, inside, our being. And the second part would be the different backgrounds that are linked with our experience, so the last 20 years of experience. And the last part will regard the 2 years last year where the university had the decision of embracing this pedagogic program as the Uniservitate one. Something about the context, the institutional context of service learning finds his origin in what the knowledge is. So something that is involved in research, the search for well-being, the society and the people well-being. Starting from this concept, we have the first referent of university. The same year, we established the point of service learning, and it is the fact that there are different activities of the universities to create a fair solidarity inside the society. And if we go deeper in the project, in the educational project for the superior education, the PAE is very important one, and we have three sources. The first one is the option of contributing to the formation, integral training, so the development of all of the dimensions of the person. And that can be translated in expressions such as the abilities, competencies that are social, political, of transcendency. At the same time, this option for formation and training, the student is an active participant to the process. The second element in this project is the connection between what's happening inside the rooms and classes, so teaching activities and studying, and also the realities that are local and regional of the territory, as we would call it today. The project was established as a way for the Educating Act to be not just with the student, but also with the relationship between professors, to establish a contact with social realities, implementing the competencies that were acquired. The third point is the role of spirituality as a transcendency aspect, and the development of this important aspect regards all of us, involves us in the ways how we can answer the questions about life, death, and the essence of life itself. So spirituality cannot be separated from the social aspect. The second part of my dissemination regards the last 20 years, from which I would like to stress 3 points, thanks to which we reinforced our was created in 2022 as a part to understand better what for us and for our university meant. And there were different talks about this, the fact that the students should have a complex of experiences. These discussions were disciplinary. A student of, for example, physics, mathematics, we were actually wondering if they needed those experiences too. For some of the teachers, these were not fundamental for them. The second part of my dissemination is the fact that we need to be careful about what kind of experiences. For example, if we talked about lawyers, because for them that would be tremendously important to have practical experience. Also creating a practical experience that is social. So starting from here, these talks were resolved thanks to this direction of practices in which each student could access the projects and participate to the good practices, having the right to do it because it's not mandatory, but as they go through their path, they can choose and they can do something with this curriculum through good social practices. So this is how we understood how the social practice could bring to an efficient development of problems, regional and, of course, the territory problems, starting from the type of academic path, giving them the choice. So after establishing this path of research, we implemented in 2017 and 2019 these kinds of experiments of analysis that allowed us to have a clear framework on the subject that train students and their contributions to the building of knowledge and capacity building to work in social context and also in the community. So they had the right and the possibility to work on these good practices, but we missed the focal point because it's not just about the possibility, but we had to provide a support system for the experience to be actually of benefit for them and the community. And then, of course, in 2020, we implemented a series of exams on the creation of a university catalog where all of the programs were reviewed. Through this project, we underlined 16 subjects and paths that had the right characteristics of a good service learning. They were theoretical and practical subjects that integrated the results of service learning. And the third fact is that they found the community in which they worked and operated as the pivotal point. And this society and this community had an active role inside the students' life. I would like to end my dissemination talking about the institutionalization project, which is the basis of this project. The basis of the process applies with Catholic University of Chile for the implementation of this project. And I would like to share with you a video where this will be in Spanish, so it's important to tell you that this is the reason, talks about the reason why our students work in the communities.
Solidaria y respetuosa con la dignidad humana. ¿Has oído hablar del aprendizaje-servicio? Es una estrategia pedagógica y curricular en la que se genera aprendizaje significativo, de forma situada mientras se aporta a la solución de problemáticas socioambientales, desde una perspectiva de ecología integral para la construcción de una sociedad más justa. La Javeriana cuenta con más de 16 asignaturas que contienen esta metodología, en lugares como Caldas, Ciudad Bolívar, Usme, Soacha y San José del Guaviare. Actualmente contamos con una comunidad de práctica que promueve el aprendizaje-servicio de la universidad. Tú también puedes hacer parte de esta iniciativa.
Como el tiempo termina, simplemente quisiera señalar.
We are out of time now, and I would like to stress that we are developing 3 strategies and a community to foster these initiatives for service learning in universities. And of course, we have the identification of new subjects to enrich this kind of activity, and also the training of people in the administration or academic field with the academic University of Chile and CLAIS. I would like to ask to the coordinator to give me 3 minutes because I cannot stress this enough and how important the Global Compact on Education is. I would like to underline that experiences as models of service learning help us to implement 5 of the objectives, 5 of the visions that include the service learning and the Global Compact. I would just tell them so that we can understand that we are talking about the same thing. Everything is interconnected. The service learning models of education are fundamental because they help the student in the community and the personal contribution to the community. So the place of learning is the relationship. Then we have the training of people that is able to build a new social network so that we can hear everybody's point of view. Then we have students that are given the possibility to understand the value of mutuality, which is the basis of the service learning meeting. And the fourth point would be the fact that the students are serving the others. So they will be able to evaluate and serve this responsibility of peace and harmony. And fifth, the compromise of creating a common house as an expression of research. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Jairo. Please don't mind me being a bit pushy on the timeline, but we still have to reflect upon all of this presentation, and we still have to do a final recap, which is, I'm sure, going to be very interesting, knowing that we have Andrew Furco here with us. So, Andrew, please, if you can share with us your constructive comments on some of the key features as your takeaways from these presentations.
Buongiorno a tutti, grande piacere di essere qui con tutti e di partecipare in questo congresso. Il tempo è corto, quindi parlerò in inglese perché finiremo in tempo. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for the excellent presentations. To hear the wonderful growth and development that's happening at the institutions, to really understand the dedication that it takes to really advance and institutionalize service learning. This is the time where I wish I were a giraffe, so I could actually see over the thing. As we heard in these presentations, the institutionalization of service learning is not just about service learning activities themselves or the projects themselves, but it's about the institutional structures, the policies, the culture that surround and support service learning. It's about the language we use, the discourse, the terms, the focus of the intentions around this work. As we consider the transition from service learning, from isolated experiences to institutional policies, to really ultimately to institutionalize this work, I'd like to draw out a few themes that we heard that have made these efforts successful at these institutions. And to consider these themes, the things we think about and reflect on and move forward on as we try to institutionalize this work. Some of these are not always tangible things, to-dos, but really mindsets around this work. The first one is really around, the first theme is around clarity of purpose. It's about why, having a real good reason as to why we want to do service learning. At the end of the day, the goal is not to do service learning. That's not the goal. The goal is to use service learning as a strategy to accomplish other goals, as was just mentioned. For example, Deusto, they started with the first proposition of why. Why are we doing this work? They set the foundation of real purposeful agenda around why service learning is essential and important. We heard it also from our colleague in Chile about transforming society and reducing suffering as a piece of why we want to do this work. There's purpose and mission. We heard it at Assam Don Bosco, linking to the SDG goals, learning goals and competence. We heard it at at Javeriana in Bogota, Identity of Social Responsibility and Human Dignity. We heard across all of these different institutions, clarity of purpose as to why. And that really becomes a central piece of the work that we do. A second important theme that I gleaned from these conversations as to why these are important is attentiveness to all levels of the institution. As was mentioned in Deusto, this is not just something faculty do, right? We need the staff to be able to do this work. We also engage the departments. We also engage the administrators. We have vice rectors and vice chancellors who champion this work and do this work. We also engage the community, as we heard in Don Bosco, as being key to the development of this effort. We also engage our alumni as well. So all aspects really thinking about attentiveness to all the different levels of the institution and engaging all those different levels. This is not going to happen on one piece of the institution. Another theme was really about the disciplines themselves. Universities are very different kinds of organizations than most other organizations. Most other organizations are organized by functions. Universities are organized by disciplines. And therefore, that's where the centrality of the work happens. And in each discipline, we use different terms, different purposes. We have different goals around why we engage our students and our faculty. And it's very important to have the opportunities for the different disciplines to think about what this means. And we heard that in all of these presentations about being able to integrate this across all the different work. And I wish I had time to give you some examples, but I only have about 1 or 2 minutes left. I think the other important thing is about, I'll just skip a couple of things here. I have 6 more minutes? Oh, okay, in that case. I did want to mention that really there's this notion of visibility and elevating the centrality of this work. Some of the terms that I heard, integration, holistic, integral, mission fulfillment, what were a couple of other ones? Things that are about core, things that are about central and important to the central feature of what the institution is about. This isn't a marginalized practice, a nice thing that we do because we feel good about it and it helps our institution's image about how we do important things in the community. This is really core to what we are about as institutions. Another important thing that I heard was about this notion of incrementalism. This is a step-by-step process for institutionalization. We heard 18 years in Chile, right? 2002 in Bogota, right? I mean, these are things that have been going on for many, many, many years. This is not something we're going to institutionalize in a short period of time. And thinking with this is the next theme that I gleaned, and that is from taking a long view. What do we envision our institution to be like when service learning is institutionalized? What will it look like? We saw the competency models at Deusto. We saw the 8-semester plans for students in Don Bosco. We saw the stages of development in Chile. And our friends at Deusto said it's a long journey, it's an intentional journey. The intentionality of this work is very important. It doesn't happen automatically. We have to make it intentional with strategic purposes and plans. And these were excellent examples of how there was clarity of purpose, but also a plan for how to move it forward. And lastly, I just want to say that institutionalizing service learning and the transformation is not just about time, but also it's about the strategy and intentionality, as I mentioned, and really having that vision of what the institution will look like and be able to accomplish, and working at all these levels, attentiveness to the policies, the structures, the culture that can support service learning. And at the center of all this is the heart, the purpose of why we do it. And so I just want to end by saying this is part of what it means to really move from this isolated approach and really to build these institutional practices for institutionalization. I'm at the end of my time. Thank you so much.
1 o'clock. I want to applaud all of the panelists again. It is an important skill to work on. I really, really hope you enjoyed this panel as much as I did. I really want to extend one more time gratitude to all of the panelists. Very, very interesting presentations. Of course, to Andrew for commenting. He always makes it seem like it's an easy job to do, which I think we all know certainly it is not. Let me just take a second just at the end to say goodbye to everyone because I'm leaving right after the panel. And sharing these days with you was really an enriching experience, and I want to thank to the organizing committee, organizing people, organizing teams, groups, for providing us with such opportunities. And Shaji would say, go and be mad, all of you, on site and online. And for the final minute, let me just give a floor to Claudia Russo for just some final further information. Thank you all again.
Thank you for your disseminations. Thank you for having participated. Before going, we want to give you a few information. These days were important for us to think about important topics and to move different and very profound thoughts. So if you have ideas on future networks, I would like to have you guys write it down with your name, contact, and institution and give them to Maria Rosa Tapia, che è qui con noi, which is here with us, so that we can narrate them. And second information, given the time that we are living, and since not everybody can be here today, we have to use social medias to share the event as much as possible. And please tag us and Scuola ACE. And you can also follow us on Instagram and social media and use the hashtag Symposium Uniservitate. Okay? So now we're free to go. We have time until 5 to 3. So we'll meet here again. And there are so many places to have lunch here, and thank you, everybody.